Woy, 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 woy. Then he then up on the radio again. Yo! If you wanna smoke free weed, grow bud yourself. You need to go plant a seed. Grow bud yourself. Make your knowledge increase. Grow bud yourself. Grow bud yourself. Grow bud yourself.
Hey guys, welcome to episode number 60 of Grow Bud Yourself. We have a great show for you guys this week. First, we're going to chat with longtime cannabis activists Rick Thompson and Jamie Lowell about a situation in Michigan. Our interview is with veteran activist and entrepreneur Mario Ramos of I Bud You, and we're going to be talking about pinching, pruning, and training for bigger yields, and answering listener grow questions. So we're very excited about episode 60. It's brought to you by Rocket Seeds, Sweet Leaf Plant Nutrients, and Excelsior Extracts. So stick around. Episode 60 coming at you. Hey, you guys, I really want to thank our sponsors from Excelsior Extracts. These are great friends of the show, great friends of mine for many years, incredible growers, incredible people, and they have made some incredible products as well, including their THC-infused pain rub. And you know it works because you're talking about people who are real, true cannabis medical patients that are making this. Just want to shout out Outcast and TOH. Check them out on Instagram at Excelsior Extracts. That's EXCELSIOREXTRACTS. Excelsior Extracts. DM them if you're interested in trying out that pain relief rub. Tell them Grow Bud Yourself sent you. And yeah, man, thank you to T and O from Excelsior for sponsoring the show and being just such great friends and supporters. All right, welcome back. Episode 60 is coming at you, and as always, thank you to DJ Jacques and Windstrong for the incredible tune. I love it, gets stuck in my head, and I think about it all the time, so thank you to those guys. Episode 60, Mike, what do we got for number 60?
Yeah, man. Well, I'm Mike, he's Dan. Welcome, you guys. Grow Bud Yourself. And according to a recent poll, 60%, a whopping 60% of Americans think that cannabis should be legal for both medical and recreational use. So that's pretty incredible. That's an overwhelming amount of support. And it also matches our episode number 60.
Excellent. I like it. I wish the number was higher, but when I first got involved in cannabis activism, that number was much, much, much lower. It was, if not in the teens and 20s. So we've come a long way. I think, a lot of that has to do with just showing people that the, legal states are thriving and doing well, and that the sky didn't fall and the kids are fine. And I think, that goes a long way because those fears were instilled for 70-something years into people over generations. And, not just through propaganda, but really through intimidation and throwing people in jail and ruining people's lives over and over. And then they'd say pot ruins your life. It's like, well, yeah, no duh. If you're gonna arrest me and throw me in jail for it, then yeah, sure. But
that will indeed ruin my life. Yeah.
But to me, it seems that it's the law that's that's ruining your life, and not the consumption of a flower. So
right.
So yeah, we've come a long way. That number, it'll keep creeping up, obviously, of course, but it's nice to see.
I've seen some polls where it's a little higher, maybe a little lower, but about 60% support recreational and medical legalization, which that's pretty great.
Absolutely. We're up to 19 states now. Connecticut just passed. Went legal, I guess, July 1st.
Yeah, 19, but I think to get to 19, you have to count South Dakota and Montana. And I personally am not prepared to count either state just because of the issues that have been going on there. But you're right in that 19 states have either passed legalization legislation or their voters have approved recreational pot.
Yeah. Yeah, and more on the way. You know, we just keep adding states, and eventually that'll go national, and we'll add other countries in the world. So, yeah, I mean, you know, the momentum's there, so that's great. And yeah, any other marijuana news, cannabis news nuggets out there?
Yeah, it's pot, man. There's always a news nugget or two, but there were just a couple of quick stories I thought that we should tell the people about before we get to our first of two excellent interviews in this episode. The first story I wanted to bring up is that Apple is now allowing cannabis businesses on its app store, so it no longer bans, say, pot delivery services from being in their app store, whereas Google continues to ban pot stores from their apps.
Wow, that is interesting and unfortunate for Google, and good on Apple. But you know, I mean, these tech companies, it's funny because they have so much, you know, to thank cannabis and psychedelics for. You know, if not for those substances, the technology would probably be not quite where it is at now. So, and that's a fact. I mean, if you go back into, you know, the history of how these companies were founded and built, people were doing drugs, you know, and they were smoking cannabis, they were taking psychedelics, and having breakthroughs to build these billion-dollar brands on those substances. So it does seem a bit hypocritical for these tech companies now to look back and say, oh, we're going to ban cannabis delivery companies. I mean, it's just, you know, they get, if anything, they should be aware of the times and be of the moment, you know. I mean, it's pretty outrageous when a company like Google can discriminate against cannabis brands, or, you know, Instagram kicking people off of the platform for legal cannabis, you know, or just you know.
And also the shadow banning that Google is accused of. You know, a lot of people believe that that cannabis businesses that don't actually sell pot but just maybe report on it or talk about it don't show up so much in searches and things like that. So that's interesting as well.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah,
in that it affects us.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was kicked off of Instagram, and you know, some people are able to get back on. I didn't get back on. I had to change my name and start fresh. And you know, I can imagine what a setback that could be if you're trying to build a brand or a company. It's you know, it's devastating and so unnecessary. Such just bullshit.
Yeah, it's just strange because I think people generally can deal with set parameters. You know, if there's a rule where you're like, hey, if you do this, then this is going to happen. But the problem that I see with Instagram and some of these other things is you never know when it's going to hit. You don't know what the thing is that actually causes you to get kicked off. And I think that's insanely frustrating for people.
Yes, agreed, 100%. It's very arbitrary, and you know, some of it is people reporting their competitors and things. So there's a lot going on there. But
there's some hateful stuff.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so interesting point, about the hypocrisy of tech banning cannabis and other illegal drugs when those drugs played a big part in developing that very technology. But good on Apple for approving those cannabis stores in their apps. The other story I wanted to just dip into briefly, and this actually very loosely ties to our first interview, in that both stories take place in Michigan, or touch on Michigan. And essentially, in this case, a couple was driving from Michigan with their 18-month-old baby, and when they arrived at their at the mother's in-laws' house in Alabama, shortly after, I think they stopped for lunch or something, the cops came. They found cannabis on them. The couple had cannabis in their trunk, and they ended up arresting them and taking their child away. So the kid, this 18-month-old kid, is now living with foster parents in Alabama, while the couple from Michigan fights to try to get custody of their kid back. The kid was taken away. And on top of that, they were also charged with something called felony chemical endangerment. And that's a law that was meant to target parents who were exposing their children to meth labs. But they're being charged with that because they had cannabis in the trunk of their car and an 18-month-old baby. So yeah,
that's just awful. What a nightmare for those parents. And to me, that just indicates like never go to Alabama for any reason whatsoever, because any place that could do that is barbaric. It's absolutely barbaric. And I think of, I don't think of American states when I say that. I think of places, like Bali, where you can get executed for cannabis, or that's what I think of, places like that. But here it is, right here at home, complete hypocrisy and barbaric actions by police against citizens. That's just so wrong, so wrong.
It's really an incredible story. The family, the husband and wife, are actually living in a tent behind the in-laws' house while they fight these charges and try to get their child back. But their baby was taken away from them because they had pot in their trunk, which, admittedly, while that is legal to have in Michigan, where they're from, it is not in Alabama. That is a state, a difference in state law. Yet another reason why federal legalization is so important. But, to take a child away because of this, it's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And also another breaking news thing happening now, basically, U.S. sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson, who is an amazing runner, amazing person, is now can't compete in the Olympics, the 100-meter race, because she tested positive for THC. Now, apparently, she says that she was using THC to cope with the death of her mother, which she found out about from a reporter asking her a question. So, again, it's just insane the level to which the hypocrisy rises. Cannabis is not a performance-enhancing drug. This woman was using it legally in Oregon. Technically not, legally for her because she's not supposed to test positive for it. But I don't know. To me, it's just insane that, you think of Ross Rabagliati, the snowboarder who had his medal taken away after testing positive. He won a gold medal and had it taken away, and that was Japan. Very archaic laws. But this, again, same thing. We're just dealing with a lot of the stigma remains, and there you have it. And it doesn't help when you have cannabis companies, working against our best interests either. And I think it's something that we wanted to have some activists from Michigan, Rick Thompson and Jamie Lowell, on the show to talk about even yet another level of hypocrisy, which is companies, actual organizations of dispensaries, some multi-state operators and some just larger cannabis dispensaries that are now banding together to support attacks on home grow, on the rights of patients, medical patients, on the plant counts, on the sizes of the plants, the canopy levels, all of it. And these are cannabis companies that are attacking home grow rights in Michigan and beyond, because this is happening in other states as well. But Rick and Jamie are here to talk about what's going on in Michigan, what we should know about it, what we can do about it, and how we can be aware that these companies may not always all have our best interests at heart, and the ones we support should be the ones that support us.
So what do you think? Should we go to our interview with Rick and Jamie?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, without any further ado, why don't we speak with Rick and Jamie? All right, welcome back, and we are pleased to have longtime cannabis activists from the Michigan area and also guests on the show previously, Rick Thompson and Jamie Lowell of Michigan. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Yes, absolutely. And I know you guys have been pretty heavily involved for many, many years in the politics of ending prohibition in Michigan and have seen some great progress. But apparently now there's some type of a caregiver boycott happening. I guess they're proposing some cutting some of the home grow rights and things like that. I'm still a little confused about it. So I was hoping you guys could enlighten me as to exactly what's been going on there in Michigan.
Well, we have a trade association called the Michigan Cannabis Manufacturers Association. They're very influential, even though they're small in number. They've proposed cutting caregiver cultivation rights by up to 80% and cutting patient cultivation rights by up to 75%. And they would do that simply to eliminate a market competitor of theirs. Naturally, we've had the caregiver system here in place for 12 years, and we don't believe there's any need for changes. I just interviewed the director of the Marijuana Regulatory Agency yesterday, and he said exactly the same. They're not asking for the legislature to make any changes. So this particular trade organization, acting on their own, has drawn the ire of caregivers, patients, and just regular citizens all across Michigan, and they've enacted a boycott of sorts. It's decentralized, but it's extremely effective. And we see the effects by the retiring of the president of the MCMA and him removing his company from there. They had to take their entire website offline for a period of time and scrub it from any corporate identifiers. They've suffered in the marketplace from loss of revenue, loss of reputation. And in fact, the trade organization is so disliked, their membership roll is a secret. We only know 5 of the 13 members of the MCMA, and the rest of them would like to keep it that way, I believe.
If I might jump in here, we've been dealing for a long time with this situation, which is the desire for a small group of people to try to control the market. And it's been happening all over the country. The first time we dealt with this was in 2009, right after the passage of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, when Senator Kuipers, introduced a bill to eliminate the caregiver system in home grows in lieu of like 10 large, distribution points or something like that, which, has been a theme, throughout the years. And we've been battling something similar. This is just the most recent incarnation. And I just want to point out that it goes beyond caregivers on the language that they are circulating with the state legislature. So this is not just us being concerned of big corporate takeover stuff. They actually have language that's tangible that describes what Rick said about caregivers, reducing plant counts, making more burdens and restrictions on them. But it also goes on to try to make it more difficult for small businesses to succeed. So they kind of show their ass. It's not about some concern about patients and that the medicine should be tested and all that kind of stuff, as they do say. It's about shutting down all activity that's not them, ultimately.
Yeah, it just seems so strange to see cannabis businesses that are, discouraging home grow because it might cut into their market, and actually, cutting these caregiver plant counts, patient plant counts, and adult use home grow. So this affects pretty much anyone who wants to grow their own, which is pretty much everyone who listens to my show, I would imagine. So I just think it's so strange, because every once in a while you see a dispensary that encourages home grow, and their patients love them for it. And you can try the strains that you want to grow. They'll sell you clones in some of these places, and even grow equipment. So it would seem that it would benefit everybody, that if patients were growing their own, that the dispensary could not necessarily view that as competition, and maybe just see that as something great. And I mean, I wonder what the end game here is. I mean, if you cut the patients' plant counts, and then they get busted, I mean, are they going to go to jail? I mean, is this what these companies would promote? Is harsher laws against home grow, so to encourage people to go to dispensaries and buy mass-produced MSO product?
Well, I think that's exactly the end game, actually, Danny. It's important to note, too, that not all businesses in Michigan follow this this guideline, this anti-caregiver guideline. The largest cannabis trade association in the state, the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association, over 300 members, has made it very clear that they don't want any changes to the caregiver program, that their members are doing just fine, and that there isn't a need. I know Jamie was going to jump in just a moment ago.
No, some of these groups have made it quite clear that they'd like to raise more funds for there to be resources for police to enforce on activity that's outside of the commercial system, essentially. Now, one of the things we argue is that there does have to be recognition that there's some things going on outside of the system that aren't within the licensed scheme and that type of stuff. It might stand out. Maybe those has to be addressed. They don't have to be addressed with police showing up and doing paramilitary attacks and taking all of their items of value and arresting them. It can be done civilly, and it's been done successfully civilly in Michigan. In Lansing, they hear about this activity, like a private little place where people are going to get cannabis. They show up and say, cut this shit out, or we're going to lock the building down for a year. And it works. They cut it out. You don't have to go through the rest of the criminal kind of processes. It's just cannabis.
It just seems like there's no zeal amongst society to rekindle the war on drugs. It also seems like a losing proposition to try and ramp up enforcement actions. Remember, when the government had all the king's horses and all the king's men, they still couldn't stop cannabis. Remember, we all it ever did was make it more available and less expensive. So what we've learned is that type of enforcement action doesn't actually suppress the market. All it really does is cause harm amongst the people that it touches. And there really seems to be no basis in fact to suppose that people who have their caregivers ripped away from them would actually then give retail money to the people who are responsible for their caregivers being taken to jail.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, we as consumers and patients need to vote with our dollar, and basically frequent the places that support our home grow rights. If we're there to purchase in between harvests or whatever it might be, support those companies, and also boycott the ones that stand in our way and stand in the way of patients' home grow and all that. This is happening in Massachusetts. This is happening in other places. What would be, your advice outside of people being, voting with their pocketbook and supporting the places that are on our side and boycotting the ones that aren't? First off, how can people find out which companies to support and which ones, are on this boycott list?
Well, there are two different things going on simultaneously. There's a list of companies that are being, let's just call it sanctioned by the community in order to discourage people from participating with them. That you can find on Instagram. Those memes are everywhere. The second aspect of it, you can primarily find on my Facebook page, Rick Thompson. That's a list of companies that have made a pledge to support no changes to caregiver rights. So when you have the community acting in a multi-headed fashion like this, where we have several different ways at which we're going about the problem, we're more likely to be successful. Jamie is very intimately involved in helping to establish some of the publicity that's been surrounding this particular boycott, Jamie.
Yeah, well, I just want to, you inquire too, Danny, about what other things people can do. And we are in the advocacy organizations and individuals who have kind of been around the block a few times are definitely beginning to organize a little bit so people can contact their local state representatives and senators and get our side of the story out and our opposition and why, to these potential changes, because this particular lobbying group, MCMA, is going to be doing the same over the summer and preparing to make some moves in the fall. If this type of language, these types of restrictions and unnecessary burdens start gaining some serious tractions, this boycott can be amped up a few notches, and it's successful as it is. So those types of things are on the horizon too.
Perfect. So the average Joe can basically, or Joe or Jill can frequent the places that are supportive, boycott the ones that aren't, encourage the ones that aren't to join up and fight the good fight rather than fight against home grow rights and that sort of thing, and talk to their politicians. I mean, I think people. Obviously, politics has a very bad rap right now, but they need us to get elected, and if they know there's enough of us out there that'll vote against them, they will respond. So your advice to people in other states who may have a similar situation, because this is happening in more places than just Michigan.
My advice, of course, would be to I'm sorry, Jamie, I just keep jumping in first here. My advice would always be to watch the progress of your brothers and sisters in other states, and then steal shamelessly from them those tactics that work. If something that's being done in Massachusetts reaches my eyes in Michigan, that means it's got some legs, right? If I hear about a program in Texas that is really knocking their socks off, I want to bring that technique here to Michigan as well. So the best thing we can do is learn from each other, and then don't hesitate to reach out and talk to the leaders of those particular movements in different states. Very seldom are you going to find someone in our community that says, no, I don't want to help you be successful at securing freedom for cannabis users in your home area.
Yeah, so exactly what Rick says. These approaches have to be in the air. Each state has its own set of circumstances and abilities for people to do. Sometimes policy has to go through the legislature, and that's it. And we're probably stuck getting started with something a little more conservative than what the people would have approved on their own. In Michigan, we got to use the ballot to create, I think, a pretty progressive program, and I hope that helped to set up states after us, such as New York, which has a great program and has taken what was the most progressive and improved on it in some areas. We hope to keep that going instead of the more conservative side of it going. But I also want to point out, too, that there are some of these licensed brands that have hooked on to some companies to be able to license their products in Michigan and other markets. Some of those are affiliated with some of these boycotted companies, and those are being called out a little bit as well. And just not to be too self-serving, but a company that I work with, the botanical company in Michigan, put out a statement early, and I believe first, making the pledge to not buy any of those products, sell any of those products, and to use smaller companies and create our inventory apart from all of that stuff, and that was well received.
Nice. Well, yeah, that's great info from you guys. Thank you so much. We will continue to monitor the situation. Also, can you let people know, just in general, what you guys are working on as far as what you guys are up to?
Well, between Rick and myself, we're on several shows every week, but we do co-host our own show together called Jazz Cabbage Cafe, which, of course, you've been on. And that's 4 to 6 on Tuesdays Eastern time. It's on Facebook and YouTube, and then on all the major podcast platforms. Independent
of that too, we also have I'm on the board of directors of Michigan Normal. Jamie is in a leadership position at the ASA chapter here in Michigan. We both write separate columns for a publication called The Rolling Paper, which just celebrated its 2-year anniversary. It's a Michigan-centric, distributed through cannabis retailers type of a publication. Those are always fun. It's great to have a local flavor and to be able to write stories each month that impact people that otherwise wouldn't get to have the news delivered to them.
All right. Well, hey, thank you, gentlemen. Rick Thompson and Jamie Lowell, Michigan freedom fighters, fighting for home grow and much, much more. And thanks for keeping up the good, peaceful battle, and continue in your efforts. We support you 100%, and we'll continue to do so.
Many thanks, Danny.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. And we will be back with more Grow Bud Yourself.
All right. Yeah, that was a really informative interview. Glad we had those guys on.
Yeah, indeed. Great interview. And we have another great interview with a veteran activist and entrepreneur, Mario Ramos of I Bud You. He's going to be talking about his years in the military, building his brand, and a really bogus bust that happened for which he spent over a year in jail as a nonviolent offender who's a military veteran. So, without further ado, why don't we take a break and come back with Mario from I Bud You. Hey, you guys, I want to tell you guys about a sponsor of ours, Rocket Seeds. check them out at rocketseeds.com. They have a ton, over 500 different varieties of cannabis strains available. High quality seeds, great genetics. They ship worldwide, which is very important. Reliable support. And they also ship for a variety of different seed banks. They've got feminized seeds, autoflowering seeds, regular seeds, CBD seeds. A lot of people are looking for that. So check them out at rocketseeds.com or on Instagram, rocket_seeds. They are awesome, and we are really happy to have them on as a sponsor. So check them out, blast off, and get your seeds from rocketseeds.com. All right, welcome back to Grow Bud Yourself, and we have an exciting guest for you guys this week. Our old pal Mario Ramos. He is a veteran, an activist, and an entrepreneur in the cannabis industry. If you've ever seen the I Bud You stickers, you know who I'm talking about. They're ubiquitous at every cannabis event and all over social media. So he's got a very interesting story to tell. Welcome, Mario.
Hey, how you doing, guys? So happy to be here.
Absolutely. Now, so Mario, you're a New York City guy. You got involved with cannabis, I would imagine, at a pretty young age.
Very young, yes. So I was like 16, and it was involved. I found the High Times magazine in the basement while I was playing Manhunt, and you could. It was a pile of Playboy magazines and a pile of High Times magazines. I got the High Times magazines. My friends ran away with the Playboy magazines. I fell in love. After that, There was no turning back.
Yeah, it seems like fate. But then you also ended up serving in the military. Tell me a little bit about that process as well.
I was born in, into I was 80s babies, what they call, and that crack was real big in the 80s, and it was like wiping out a lot of my friends. A lot of people were getting wiped out, literally. Like they were either going to jail, they were dying, it was horrible. So a friend of mine came around looking real good in his uniform. It was a Navy uniform. So I joined the Navy first. I did 4 years there, and then I switched, and then I liked the Navy. I was in the USS America, and I saw some Marines come in, like I was already leaving. And I saw some Marines, and I liked that uniform too. I ended up joining the Marine Corps, and I did 12 years in the Marine Corps, 16 years altogether.
You certainly saw parts of the world you probably would not have seen otherwise as well, I would imagine. Yeah,
definitely not. Like, never thought, when I joined, there wasn't a war in 10 years. And all of a sudden when I got there, it's like, you get a shift out, you're going, that's it. So saw combat. Saw it all, and was part of it, and ended up coming back from over there. And I would come back here and there. 1996, I came back and I opened up a hip hop store in the Lower East Side. I still was in the military. My brothers were running it, and we went to. A lot of people know it. We did it with Burkina. He was real famous in the Lower East Side. We did a big hip hop store. It was amazing. I love the the graffiti. So I always. We did a hip-hop / art store, for the graffiti artists. We had the spray cans, we had the markers, the unis, the minis. It was pretty good. Then I signed out in 2004 of the Marine Corps, came back and did the store full time. And right there, I came back into the scene. 96, California went legal. I was like, oh, I'm going to California. Still took me a while to get there, but it actually took me to like 2010 to get to California. And that's when I started I Bud You, the company. I started I Bud You, which was like graffiti and cannabis together. I was always putting the art together. And so when I put that together, I started doing the sticker, the I Bud You sticker. I did the heart. We were growing in New York, and you know how that was. Real low key underground. We were growing, and we had some people cutting. We were curing the plants. And this girl goes to me, hey, look, this weed looks like a heart. This bud looks like a heart. So I said, let me see. And we played around with it. We took a picture, put it on the internet, and I think we got like the first hour, we got like 600,000 hits. And then it just blew up from there. Yeah, we were like, what the hell? And right there, that's why the sticker was born from there. And so we put this all over New York City. We would throw it underground parties. And started doing, instead of speakeasies, we started doing the weed easies. And the first one was at Bar 13, rooftop party. That was real good. We really we had a good time there.
Amazing. So, and then, so you're chugging along with I Bud You, and you basically, helped kind of jumpstart this whole sesh industry where people will, rent out a space and have vendors and people coming in. And it's really kind of like the modern day farmers market for cannabis in a lot of ways, because people can showcase their products and it's very mom and pop and small business oriented.
That's right. It's people who are on the ground. That's right. Very mom and pop. That's how we like it. Special vendors that will come out. And, they have to take a chance because it's a weed easy. So, it's like we have to take a chance, real low key, friends only. When we first started it, I would only let all the vendors invite 10 people each. It's like you couldn't invite everybody at the same time. It was 10 people each, no more than 50 people. And we would be so nervous because everybody wanted to smoke. And that was the whole thing. You could smoke. So we were like real light about it. We grew it all the way to like 3,000 people now could pass by them, and we know how to take care of it and everything. And we, that's how it started. We started with Bar 13 there. That was the first person who said yes to us. So we would do it was 3 floors. So we would do like the regular floor. Downstairs you could rap, you could get on the mic. Second floor was the graffiti. And the third floor was you could light up because that was the roof deck. So you could smoke and you could have the vendors and all that. And that was real good. We had real good people backing us up. And, and then it went on to the first time that I ever tried a dab. That's when your baby was born. I never forget it. Because we were like, hanging out, and you were like, hey, my baby's about to be born. I got to get out of here. And Sean came with like a big freaking glass plate of it. And I was like, here's this. I was like, what the hell is this? It was golden. It was so beautiful. It was so pure. And I got dabbed out. I felt like a spider web on my face. I'll never forget that. And you laughed because your baby was being born. I was like, what? So I don't know how old is the baby now? Not a baby no more, right?
he turned 11 in May. So that must have been right around 2010.
That's right, 11
Indeed.
years ago.
Wait. So hold on one second here. So Dan, your child is being born, and you're doing dabs at a high times party while your poor wife is in labor.
It wasn't even high times.
No. I was there.
You ran away.
The office.
No, you were at the office.
I was there when my baby was born. Right. I went to the hospital. This was my wife was induced, so I knew it was going to happen. This was all planned. Anyway. Yes, I was there. No, I was not dabbing when my son was born. I was at the hospital. This is prior to that happening, but probably same day. Where we were at the office. But
you left. That
would make your first dab would be right around May 13th, May 12th, or 13th of 2010, because that's my son.
2010. There you go.
But we're so. So we're having fun. You're, being an activist, you're an entrepreneur, you're doing some growing. And then basically, tragedy struck around 2017, and there was a raid, right?
That's right. 2017, we had a big art gallery studio in Brooklyn, in Bushwick. We were doing real good. We were doing, it was real art, real beautiful, that what we were doing. Everybody was saying that it was going to be legal, and so Jersey starts screaming out. Governor Murphy starts screaming out that in the first 90 days of his election, if he wins, he was going to make it legal. So he wins. Everything is good. He was screaming it out that it's going to be legal. I remember him waving a freaking marijuana flag, so all happy. And so I said, it was like a Thanksgiving time. The day before Thanksgiving, I end up going to Jersey, 2017, November 22nd. And I go to a friend who's doing, he's growing. And I go there, and since I know about it, they call me, hey, come and see this. We're in a sort of situation here because it's not going the way we wanted it to. And we were supposed to open up a lounge there, a store. He was going to cut down the plants. It was going to be his last grow because he wasn't happy with it. And he was going to go legal, go lounge, get the license, and go legal with it, and make that space a lounge because he saw how good we did at the lounge at 175 Bogart. So he saw what we were doing there, so he wanted me to go over there and talk to him. But that's not what happened. When we walked in, the detectives, the police officers had already heard about the little place. It was the first time, it was the second time I've been there. And when I walked out of there, they arrested me. They arrested me with a couple of people. Everybody was like, what the hell's going on? We all thought it was going to, it was the governor screaming out, it's legal, we approve weed here. Like he's screaming it out like it's going to be legal. So kept my mouth shut, just the way the High Times articles used to say, like if anything happens, keep your mouth shut. For your lawyer. Mm-hmm. When it came to the rescue, everybody was good. I ended up having to do a year and 4 months, a year and 48 days in jail that time, waiting for people to do it. The prosecutors tried to give me life in jail. The first day they told me life in jail, scared the hell out of me. But I still had my chin up in the air. I was like, this is a little crazy what you're saying. And so, it went down from life to 25 years to 15 years. And then it went down to like 7 years. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, 7 years is still crazy. Like, what are you talking about?
What was the charge that they were, what were they charging you with?
First, they were trying to say kingpin, like that I was a kingpin type thing. But a lot of people talked about themselves, and then they found out, this guy had never even been here. They couldn't prove there was no pictures of me there. There was nothing of me there. They held me because they said I had a California license. So how could I be from California and grow in Jersey? So it didn't make any sense. It wasn't sticking what they were saying. So that's why they kept lowering things.
Right. And from my memory, I mean, let me wrap my mind around this again. A United States veteran who served 16 years as in the Navy and Marines.
Yep.
Shows up at a grow a couple times, gets charged with basically running a grow in New Jersey, a completely non-violent crime to begin with.
That's right.
And you're innocent of even that, and end up having to do over a year in jail and being charged with, ultimately charged with 7 years in prison.
Yeah.
And being held for over a year. I mean, I can't wrap my mind around the fact that happened in New Jersey with Governor Murphy in charge, all because of you just showing up at a grow. I mean, it just seems crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Definitely crazy.
And
crazier. They let me out. So now the judge says, listen, Mr. Ramos, I had to go through 3 judges. So the third judge tells me, Mr. Ramos, the legislature's changing. We're going to let you out, and we're gonna sentence you at a later date because legislature's changing. Because it was just getting better while I was there every month, articles every single day. It's like everybody's fighting for it. People lined up. They signed a petition for me. Over 4,000 people signed a petition for me, so that was real good. And so I get out. I'm out for 2 years. Corona happens. November 9th of 2020, marijuana goes legal, recreational and medical in New Jersey. November 12th, the lawyer calls me and says, time served. Come in, time is served, you're good. Come and get sentenced, because I didn't get sentenced for 2 years. Had no problem for 2 years, everything's good. I go November 16, the judge says everything that the 2.9 million people voted, but we do not, it doesn't weigh on me because growing is not part of the rules. They didn't approve growing. And so you're here for growing. And so they still gave me 7 years flat. And the 2 years didn't count. So I got reprimanded right there. They cuffed me right there. Like, again, I missed another holidays with my family, thinking everything was good. I lost the job that I was doing. I was doing the Amazon delivery service at the time too. And I lose the job, my whole family, my friends, everybody just shocked at what happened. And the judge straight up said, hey, this does not weigh on me that 2.9 million people voted yes on marijuana. I was shocked. I was shocked. And that's why I want to tell people here today and anybody who's listening that this could happen to you, that you have to be real good. I'm reading the laws and making sure that you read that law good in your state, because in your state, different laws for everybody. So just comply by those laws, because it's not worth it, because in the next 3 years, it's really going to be legal. Hopefully the MORE Act passes. Everybody should get involved with the MORE Act. And that should help us with the Bank Act, so that the banks could take the money too, right to your people. The one thing that I could say is that while I was in New Jersey, I wrote to over 18 people, the senator, the governor, the attorney general, everybody I could get my hands on. And I could tell you that they did write back to me. So people, we have power. People will help you. And that's what happened to me right now. They helped me, and I'm in a program right now. It's called ISP, Intensive Supervision Program. New Jersey has it. I got picked for it because I never had it. It was a nonviolent crime. I also didn't have any other priors. And I did have one prior, which was marijuana, and that was in 2011. And that was for 36 grams a pot. So, that happened. But you got to be careful with the laws now, because they are still come at you. The police officers are still not educated. They were prosecuting us for so long that they don't get it. They don't get it yet. It's not a clear case. Oh, it's legal. No, how is it legal? So if they tell you could carry 6 ounces, make sure you don't carry 6 ounces and 1 gram. That 1 gram could throw out those 6 ounces and just put you in. It's not like, oh, it's legal for 6, so I got to have this over. No, you have to be careful with that. So that's that one thing I want to get across here today, is that the kids, the youth, do not mess up your record. Don't mess up your record.
It's still, it's not quite yet legal in the way, and you can still go to jail for it. There's still ways for them to use these laws against us. Yeah. Now tell me about, you're involved now with Last Prisoner Project as well. Tell me a little bit about what that entails.
Yeah, that's my family right there. Last Prisoner Project. They're so amazing. They help you out. They're amazing. The same way you guys are. You've been working at it so long. You've been telling people how to do it, how to be careful. And the Last Prisoner Project right now, they'll help anybody who's in jail. Our motto is, if you're in jail, we're coming to get you. These people are here working 24 hours a day. They're working while they're sleeping. They're working. They're pushing people and they're helping people get out. And when you get out, we'll help you when you get out to transition, put you in the reentry program, be able to help you out. So many programs, and we as a people have to not forget the people who are inside. Right now, there's 40,000 people inside jail for marijuana. Some people are making millions on it. Some people are smoking it every day, buying it every day. You got to write letters to these people. When I was in there, when I got a letter, just hi, I love you. I appreciate you. Anything in that letter, just say hello. We're thinking of you. That letter goes such a long way inside there, because everything is so hard and slow when you're in prison and you're in jail. It's not the same. You can't just make a phone call You can't just get the mail like the way it is. Everything is in such a way that it's just like you're in quicksand, you know, and it's very hard. You have to have a strong head to be in there, and you don't want to be in there. So my warning to everybody is follow the law. Don't smoke in your car like that. Don't. It's like having an open container if you have a joint in your ashtray. You know, be careful with that, and just don't go to jail. It's not worth it because it's going to be legal. You don't want to be fighting this. You know, the judges, the prosecutors, the police officers, in their eyes, they're doing their job. They're helping. That's how they see it. And, you know, and we're civilized. We're supposed to be civilized. The laws are changing, but they're still there. So be careful. New Jersey, New York, I don't want to see none of my brothers and sisters inside there. You know, like right now, I'm still part of this program. I'm still dealing with it. And I just did 90 days of the program. I'm so happy that I'm home. So happy that I got approved, you know. There's people here who will help you, but I'd rather not be on this program. You know what I mean? I'd rather not be on the program.
Yeah. So what can our listeners do if they're just at home, puffing away, chilling, listening to this? What can they do to help support and make sure that people understand that there's still all these people locked up, all these records that need to be expunged, and all these laws that need to be changed so that this doesn't happen to any other nonviolent cannabis offenders or, you know.
Okay, so right now, the first thing I would tell everybody is go to the Last Prisoner Project, sign the petition, go to the clemency. We have everything there on it. You can go sign for that. All 40,000 people get the clemency. Also, we want to get involved with the MORE Act. We want to be able to be it. Just go to m.o.r.e act. Go there. It'll pop up. You'll see what it's involved. It expunges everybody's record who got hurt by this program. It would just demolish all these old laws. And remember, for over 80 years, we've been getting convicted for this. So it's hard to turn the key, turn it. But if we show the power, like Jersey came out and voted, 2.9 million people voted. New York, brand new, all the people voted. Let's get it. Let's just go there, sign the paper, the clemency, and they will see that that we want it. And if we speak, they have to do what we want. Anybody could get in trouble. So we want these laws just abolished.
Right. Absolutely. Now, what about for iBudU? How can people link up with the socials and stickers, products, whatever accessories they might be interested in from the iBudU LLC?
All right. Everybody who comes into, everybody who's listening to this program today, go to the iBudU.com. Let me know that you listen to the show and that you're listening to the show. You're part of it. And I'll send you guys 10 stickers to anybody who sets me up. Go to the Instagram. Free iBudU is the one I have right now. While I was in there, Instagram shut me down, shut the original iBudU account down. I'm still fighting to get it back. I should get it back. And but right now I got free iBudU. And while I was in there, Puff Cards put me up and she helped me out. Go to the Puff Cards Instagram also. They're fighting for the people. Go on that, but go to the Instagram. Tell me that you heard about it. And I'll send you guys some stickers. And you could always go to iBudU.com also. I got the website going on. Got some stuff in there if you like. Got art, got the T-shirts, got the sweatshirts, got the hats. And then and I'll also let you know the undisclosed location for the sessions until they let us do lounges in New York. So, yeah.
Perfect. Well, listen, I want to thank you for your service to the country. I want to thank you for your service to the plant. I want to thank you for having to endure, the time spent in jail for a nonviolent cannabis offense. It's outrageous. I know we communicated a little bit while you were in there, and I expressed my outrage at the situation, but I just want to say that to you personally as well. And thank you for, just all your hard work. And, I support iBudU forever and all the sessions and everything else. So
iBudU guys, iBudU, you're part of the tribe. Danny, thank you so much. That meant so much while I was in there. Your little words, picking up the phone, that was amazing. Don't forget the people that are in jail, even if you don't know them. If you even know, it's a friend of a friend, write them a little letter, send them something. A little magazine goes a long way. Go to Last Prisoner Project. They're amazing. Follow the show right here. Mike, Danny, they've been through it all. So love you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thanks, Mario. And we will be back after these messages with more Grow Bud Yourself. Hey guys, I want to tell you about Sweet Leaf Plant Nutrients. They have an incredible line of organic fertilizers, brand new legacy line as well, which is organic, and some synthetics. A lot of really incredible tools for the modern gardener. So check them out at sweetleaf.com, SUITELEAF. The code DANKO15 gets you 15% off of everything that you can get at Sweet Leaf, which also includes complete indoor hydroponic grow tent kits, a bunch of different apparel and merch, and their signature line of amazing nutrients. If you join our Patreon, you can get even more codes for 20 or even 25% off of Sweet Leaf Newts and other products. I want to thank them for being a sponsor, and as always, tell them that Grow Bud Yourself sent you. Hey, all right, welcome back, and thank you to Mario for the very enlightening and interesting interview there.
It's just unbelievable that he was even facing that amount of time for that infraction. That just sounds mind-boggling.
Yeah, I mean, putting a veteran in jail even for a year for, growing plants is just outrageous and ridiculous, and it's a
bonkers.
It's a stain on our nation's history, just like slavery and all these other things that are just awful. And you look back on these things and you think, like, how was it possible that people could have been so ignorant as to allow something so outrageous to occur? You know what I mean? And hopefully that's the way people look back on cannabis prohibition. I feel like that's how they look at alcohol prohibition. I feel like that's how they look at a lot of other things that just, people accepted in the past. And we look back and think, wow, they were dumb about that. But I think Mario's story is a perfect example of the fact that, we're not out of the weeds yet, so to speak. Like, it still can happen. It still can happen to anybody randomly out there. And that's why we got to keep fighting to change these laws and, keep track of what's going on. And like he said, there's still thousands of people in jail for this, for that. And they need to come out too. And we need to make their families whole again. And it's just, it's all just crazy. It's that this is all over cannabis. We're talking about a healing flower and a medicine. And, yeah. So anyway,
I would just say, support the man and take him up on that very kind offer for those stickers. It is the iconic I Bud You logo, which I think everybody in at least in New York and New Jersey would recognize. So, hit him up, let him know that you're thinking about him, and get some of those very cool stickers. So we thank Mario for being our guest, and we have now arrived safely into the cultivation segment. We don't have a strain this fortnight, but we do, as always, have a tip, because each week Dan likes to discuss a certain aspect of growing that will help you become a better cultivator. So what are we going to talk about this week?
Yes, we are talking about pinching, pruning, and training for bigger yields. I will mention, to hit up Mario for the stickers, go to Instagram and hit up Free I Bud You. So FreeIBudYou. That's the Instagram since the first one was deleted. He's a pot prisoner that needs your support, and he will send you free I Bud You stickers if you just mention that you heard him on the show. So check it out. As far as pinching and pruning and training, the reason I picked this topic, just like the last few topics, beat the heat, vegetative stage. This is the time of year, if you're growing outdoors, where, these are the things that give you a bigger yield in the future. So you don't want to do pinching and pruning and training during the flowering stage. These are all things that happen during the veg stage, when you're just trying to build a stronger and bigger plant, bigger root system, so that you can grow bigger buds. But the foundation is happening during veg. And these are just basically techniques that you can employ to have more tops, more branches at canopy level, which become, just drastically increase your harvest when it comes time. So typically, if you have limited space to grow, or you're restricted in the number of plants you can grow, again, pruning is a huge benefit. So it is important to do this at the right time. You can do training. Training is basically, rather than pruning or pinching, you're just basically training branches. So you can use weights to weigh down the main branch, which is a really interesting training method. It basically sends auxins, which are hormones, from that top, of the plant, that growing main shoot. And it turns basically a Christmas tree into a Hanukkah bush, for lack of better description. But instead of that, like, typical Christmas tree profile where there's a main cola at the top and a bunch of smaller colas, you get a bunch of bigger colas, and you keep that main cola. So training's good in that way. I use like sinkers that you use for fishing when the plant is very young. And you can start this when the plant is very young. I mean, it could be basically just rooted or a very young seedling. Anything you do at this point is going to make it a stronger plant, as long as it doesn't kill it. So, and pruning lower growth is another major thing. So, the parts of the plant that aren't going to get a ton of light indoors, for instance, or even outdoors, you prune those off. You're actually going to increase how much light energy goes to those tops. So, you definitely want to clean off any old or dead growth, or any yellow leaves or burnt leaves or anything like that, for sure. That's a number one priority, because those invite pests, and it's really bad. So definitely take off anything that's dying or yellow or anything like that. But also, another thing about stripping some of that lower growth, it allows airflow through underneath the plants, and that can really reduce some situations where, if there was no circulation there, you get mold, bud rot, pythium, all kinds of things can happen. So it's nice to just strip that off and have a little bit of air flowing through underneath the canopy. Sometimes you can also use screen of green method, where you're basically putting the plants, you have a horizontal trellising kind of system of some kind. You can use chicken wire. You can concoct something out of string. Either way, basically, it's a horizontal canopy where you basically train the growing shoots into that trellising system and fill those empty holes as the plant is growing. And then that screen basically spreads those branches apart and gives you a bunch of tops. That's a good thing to do indoors if you have that, if you need a level canopy. Outdoors, it's good just to have that screen and let the plants spread out through it. It really does actually spread the branches apart and let those lower parts get more light and fill out, and you definitely get a lot bigger buds. The way the plant wants to grow, as I mentioned, is like a Christmas tree style, and that's not going to be as big of a yield. So anything you can do to spread the plant out. Some people will take actual string and tie down branches to either the sides of their containers that the plants are in, or whatever they can, just to pull those branches down and away from the main stem, and just spread them out and make for a wider plant. When not to prune or pinch is basically in the lead up to flowering. You really don't want to do a lot of pruning during that time. A lot of people have these techniques where they prune a ton of leaves off the plant. And if you do that strategically, you can increase yield as well. There's that, 3 pounds of light kind of system where they schways or whatever it is. But that's all very much about timing and not so much a beginner tactic, but something you can learn about. And it's interesting because what happens when you prune drastically like that all at once is that the plant it takes a couple of days to bounce back, but when it does, it bounces back strong. And that's kind of, if you time it right, that can be quite an increase as well. As far as, pruning and topping, you want to be strategic about, especially if you're topping, taking off cuts, just look at what's happening below where you're going to cut, because those are going to become main branches as well. And there's ways to be strategic about that when cutting off the top growth. Another thing that you can do is when you cut those tops off, just turn them into clones, particularly if you're growing from seed, because then you'll have a vegging version of the plant. Should it turn out to be some amazing thing that you want to hold on to, you'll have a cutting of it that you kept in a vegetative stage and you can keep as a mother plant. So that's also very important. After you've cut a plant, it suffers a little bit of damage and it takes a minute to bounce back. So do it strategically and treat the plant very kindly as well. If it's dry when you cut it, give it some water, let it recover. These are the ways that you're going to get a stronger root system, a bigger plant, a stronger plant. And another thing you can do besides pinching, pruning, and training is just kind of, my friend, my old pal, Easy Gene, likes to call it beating up the plants, although I don't know if that's necessarily politically correct, but he would use a hockey stick and just sort of rub them across the top of the canopy a bit and bend the tops over a little and let them then recover. And that just strengthens them. Indoor plants don't have wind and things to contend with that strengthen them naturally. So this is a way that you can strengthen your indoor plants. But you got to be gentle and you got to be smart about it. And definitely it's really just kind of like sweeping across that top inch of growth. And they just sort of bend over a little. And then very shortly, within, half hour or less, they'll bounce right back and be pointed back towards the light, but they'll be all the stronger for having that done to them. So those are a bunch of different techniques to strengthen plants and boost yield.
All right, very good. So yeah, Danny Danko on beating off plants and pinching one off. That's good stuff. We appreciate the info.
Not sure that's exactly how I put it.
That's what I took from it. I don't know. But thank you for the grow tip. Now it's time to take some questions from our faithful listeners. And if you have a question that you would like answered on the show, get in touch with us. You could email us. That is info@growbudyourself.com. You could also find us on the socials. So let us know your question. It'll be answered on the show if deemed appropriate. Let's start things off with Chad B.
Let's do it.
All right, Chad B. He's got two questions. Let's take the first one here. Hi, gentlemen. Thanks for the great show. I'm wondering why there is a pH buffering range on super soil or organic soil like Fox Farms products. Does this mean that you don't have to pH balance your water to a particular level? What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. There are some soils that you can purchase that are buffered or basically balanced in their acidity or alkalinity, the pH ratio. The truth about pH is different nutrients are taken in at different ranges. So, nitrogen has a different range than phosphorus and then potassium and calcium and magnesium, but they all kind of fall within a certain range. So between, let's say 5.5 and 6.8 or 7.0, depending, they kind of fall in there. And, it's usually typically just a little bit slightly on the acidic side. is where they like it. But the different ones have a different range. So when you say pH buffering range, that's what it sounds like to me, is that you have a bit of a cushion there between a certain range. But should the pH get outside of that range, those nutrients are unavailable at that point. So, I kind of err on the side of caution. I try to keep it with super soil or organic soil like Fox Farm, as you mentioned. I still do the testing. I don't want a problem with pH. So, I test the pH of a nutrient solution before I add it. And I sometimes test what comes out afterwards just to make sure I'm not having any issues. But anywhere between, like I said, 5.5 and 6.8, you're probably going to be fine. With hydro, you can go a little lower. With soil, it likes to be a little bit on the higher side. I would say 6.0 to 6.8 for soil, 5.5 to 6.5 or so for hydro. But, it's kind of a pocket that you're in. So as long as it's within that range, you're good. I would say you do have to pH balance your water. Everybody's water is different. So that's really the point, is that the soil is the soil and the water is the water. And if the water is well water, or if it's reservoir water or distilled or rainwater, all those things make a huge difference. And pH is not very difficult to check, and a really important thing for the plant. So check the pH, make sure it's in range, and feed the plants, and you don't have to worry.
All right, excellent. And Chad also writes, hoping to also get a question answered regarding Cinderella 99 feminized. I've been growing, and it seems that the plant twists upon itself. I spend hours a day untwisting all the branches. This is new to me, specifically for this strain. I had a couple of them more or less choke themselves out by not untwisting. Is this an example of bad genetics or something else? So what would you say to Chad there?
Yeah, wow. There's a number of things that can cause leaves to twist. Different toxicities, nitrogen and other things can cause that, like clawing. It could just be a deformity. It could be sometimes exposure to really high heat. This is something that's happening right now all across the country, particularly the Pacific Northwest, where you got temperatures that are way higher than normal, 115 degrees. And so a lot of different things can cause leaves to curl. It really depends on how much they curl as well. Yours sounds pretty extreme, because it sounds like, they're actually choking themselves, and that I've never heard of. That could be some kind of a deformity or a malady of some kind that really you should look into. Sounds like it could be genetic, could be water, it could be heat. So it's tough to diagnose, but it would be helpful to see how twisted or mangled or deformed those leaves are, because that also can tell you a lot about what's going on.
All right, very good. Sounds like your plants just don't want to continue on, Chad. It's a little sad, actually, but we hope that helps you out. Let's hop over to Patreon, take a question from Eric, who writes, "Hey guys, I really love the show, and I finally decided to take the leap and join Patreon." Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot. That's really the best way you can support the show, is join the Patreon and be part of that community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric. Okay, so Eric writes, I'm on my first grow, and I've made a bunch of mistakes as expected, but up until last week, it was looking really good. Then the slightly more mature plants started having some changes. First, the veins in the uppermost leaves of the main cola started to turn purple from base to tip. That was followed by a yellowing of the leaves and then brown-black spots on the top side. The spotting has progressed very slowly, and I tried adjusting the issue by going up to 2 milliliters per liter of CalMag, since it looks like a calcium deficiency to me. That slowed the progression, but it did not stop it, so I decided to get a nice pH pen and flush with recharge. I fed each 1 liter of water with the recharge and then an additional half liter with some CalMag. I pH'd it at 6.5 exactly. That stopped the spread for almost 48 hours, but this AM I got additional black spotting on a leaf, which had very little before. So I would really appreciate any recommendations. What would you say here to Eric? What do you think? What's going on?
Yeah. So veins turning purple is an interesting issue, and it really depends, because sometimes plants just do that, but most plants don't. And I think that's a phosphorus deficiency personally. So treating it with CalMag is not going to really solve it. It'll bounce back a little bit, but really I think you're going to need phosphorus. The other thing is I would check on your water, because sometimes when you misdiagnose a nutrient issue like this, it's not the nutrient issue so much as it is the water. You pH'd it perfectly, but there could be contaminants in the water that, you might need reverse osmosis, distilled water, something like that. It really, sometimes spotting and yellowing and vein discoloration can be caused by just bad water. And I've seen it time and time again where people have, fretted over deficiencies and added newts, and the problem persists. And a lot of times once they do a survey of their water and they actually figure out, that there's these contaminants there, and they switch and reverse to, RO water or distilled water, the problems go away. So I would check on your water for sure, and also look into adding phosphorus if it's not a water issue.
All right, there you go. We hope that helps you out there, Eric. That is all the time we have, but we are going to continue the Grow Q&A over on Patreon and take a question on how exactly to break into this cannabis industry that we've all heard so much about. But we thank Eric and everyone else who wrote in this week. Once again, if you have a question that you would like answered on the show, get in touch with us. Email us. That would be info@growbudyourself.com, and get us on socials, Patreon, YouTube, Facebook, etc. What do you say we take a little break, come back, and wrap this one up?
Let's do it. All right, we are back, and I believe it is time to wrap up the show. Episode number 60 of Grow Bud Yourself. So happy to have Rick Thompson and Jamie Lowell on and talking about Michigan and what's going on there. Again, thank you to Mario from I Bud You. Just really a tale of building up and breaking down and building back up again. And thank you for your activism and hard work. Thanks to Rocket Seeds, thanks to Sweet Leaf Plant Nutrients, thanks to Excelsior Extracts. Check out their THC infused pain relief rub. And speaking of our sponsor, Rocket Seeds, they are running a sale right through the 4th of July. They have a code RKSJ20, which is good for 20% off orders until July 4th, and 5 free seeds, all one word, the number 5, and then FREESEEDS is good for 5 free seeds until the 4th of July. So check out rocketseeds.com and vapor.com. We got a new Grow Bud Yourself promo code from them as well. That is Grow Bud Yourself 20. That's a coupon code for actually 20% off site-wide on vapor.com. That includes a ton of amazing vaporizers and accessories. So check out vapor.com and use that code Grow Bud Yourself 20. A lot of new stuff coming from them as well, and our collaboration has expanded, so that's pretty rad. Thank you to all our Patreon supporters. Check out patreon.com/Danny Danko, and please join up. My birthday is coming up this Sunday, July 4th. The best gift you can get me is to join our Patreon page for as little as $4.20 a month. That's about $50 a year, but it really goes a long way to support our independent cannabis podcast. So thank you so much to you guys for listening and sticking it out with us for 60 episodes. We'll be back next week with another episode as well. We've got a great show in store for you guys then. And Mike, do you got anything to say to the people?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, hey.
I got happy birthday, Danko. Born on the 4th of July, Mr. Independence.
I'm turning 49, the big 49. So, yeah, when you're celebrating out there, light one up for the Danko. And, I guess the ninth inning has rounded third in a weird mixed metaphor, and it's coming home, and I say, let's put it in the books.